What we have here today is a 56-inch S.M.C industrial ceiling fan, manufactured back in May of 1979. Using a stamped steel motor, stamped aluminum curved blades. Canopies are plastic. You can see the S.M.C logo there on the lower canopy. Right there is the main information sticker there. Fan uses a mounting system identical to the Hunter Originals, double claw rubber pulley. Got this fan and two others identical to it from a warehouse that was owned by my current electrical employer. Was doing work in there and saw these fans had no capabilities of ever running because there was no power going to them. These fans are come wired with 3-prong plug-ins, so you can plug them straight into a receptacle. But whatever receptacles these were originally plugged into were being occupied by light fixtures, so if you wanted to run these fans, you have to go up and plug the nearest light fixture and plug the fan in. Not a very effective method. So what I did was that I went down there and asked the shop manager there, asked him, it's like, hey, do you ever use these fans? I noticed that there's no really any way of powering them. And he said, no, I have no idea even how to turn those on. And I said, well, they're just hanging loose up there. The plug-ins aren't plugged into anything, so I was curious if you, since I'm doing work in here, do you want me to take these down and get them out of the way? He said, sure, why not? So I was able to get these fans for nothing. All three of them for free, so that was pretty nice. The only thing that will make these better is if these were a few years older. So fans from 1977 on back were made with cast iron motors, and those things were quite a sight to behold in terms of performance. These are fairly decent fans as well, but not as good as their older cast iron counterparts. So I will demonstrate all three fans in this video. I'll run this one with a 5-speed wall control for demonstrative purposes. However, on the other two, I'm just going to run them straight to high. Not going to cycle them through the wall control because they're virtually the same fans. So this thing was absolutely filthy when I got it. Had to do a very thorough cleaning. And also the bearings on this fan were absolutely toasted. So those had to be replaced. So it's got a brand new bearing on the top and a good used replacement bearing on the bottom. For whatever reason, S.M.C used two different size bearings in their motors. The lower bearing is a 6202 size bearing, and the upper bearing is a 6203 size bearing. So this one and the second fan that I will show, I had to replace the bearings on. However, the third fan, the bearings are still in pretty good shape, so I'm really going to bother with that one. So let's go ahead and get started. Start up here on speed number 1, which is the lowest speed on the control. These blades are a little bit bent, so it does have a wobble in some certain RPMs, but other than that, fairly smooth. Motor hums a little bit, which not really a big deal given that this is an industrial fan. You're not really looking for dead silence on these. These are more geared for, obviously, for performance versus aesthetics. Speed number 2, medium low. Speed number 3. medium, you probably notice as I'm changing the speeds, the torque of the motor, it's actually torquing in the J-hook ever so slightly every time I adjust the speed up. So these motors do have some pretty good torque to them. Medium high, speed number 4. And full blast. Hard to say how fast this thing actually is going. Probably, if I were to guess, 200, 210 RPM. It is definitely not the fastest industrial out there. However, with its fairly steep blade pitch, it still throws out a pretty good breeze. Like I mentioned earlier, these are not as powerful as their older cast iron counterparts, which sadly weren't ever sold in the US because S.M.C got into the US market around 1978, which was after the cast iron fans were phased out. So the ones that do surface in the US are trickled down from Canada. But pretty decent performer. Motor does have a slight motor hum to it when it runs, or a moan rather. Alright, so we'll go ahead and cut to the next fan. And here's fan number 2. This one here is slightly newer, from November of 1979. Fortunately, this one is missing the upper canopy. It doesn't even seem like this was even installed with it. The only difference between this one and the older, or the first one, which is the oldest of the bunch, is that they updated the mounting to a pretty much a modular system here. J-hook mount pulley system. If you look over here, this is the first one that I tested, and as you can see, has a double claw system like the originals, and there's multi-piece where you can unscrew that. And here's the third motor here. This one's also missing its upper canopy, but it has the same exact down rod design there. Another thing that's interesting about this particular fan is that if you look on the tag, if you can see it there, you probably notice on the bottom that it says that this fan is manufactured by S.M.C for energy reduction systems, which is either is or was, I'm not sure if they're still around or not. They were a company based out of Worcester, Ohio, that in the probably late 70s, early 80s, they also were another obscure high-end fan manufacturer. Most of the fans that they made were residential fans, lighted housing, slag glass fans, very, very unique fans. Unfortunately, they're rare as hen's teeth nowadays. And they also made an industrial as well. They're standalone industrial using a universal stack motor. And ironically, those actually used parts off of S.M.C's. Pretty much, I think the blades, maybe the down rod, I can't remember. It's been a while since I've seen one, but yeah, pretty unique fans. And it's interesting how the motor tag on this fan states that it's made for energy reduction systems. And this is the only one out of the bunch. The other two motors there, They just have standard affair S.M.C tags, so I'm not sure really what is going on with this one. So I don't know if or Energy Reduction Systems actually rebadged fans from S.M.C in the late 70s, then making their own standalone industrial fan, or what the deal is. Hard to say. Like I said, the company quit making fans by the mid 80s, so they've been gone for quite a while. So, like I said, we'll just start this one straight to high and see what it does. This fan also replaced the bearings on, as they were, pretty sad shaped in themselves. Unfortunately, it seems like the bottom bearing that I used, which is a used bearing, seems to make a little bit of noise now, but I'm not going to bother opening these fans back up to change it. It runs perfectly fine. Performance is comparable to the first fan. Like I said, they're virtually the same fans, just slight build differences, as you can see. Alright, we'll go ahead and show the third fan. And here is the third and final fan. This one here is the newest of the bunch, from sometime around 1980. Unfortunately, the sticker within the lower canopy that showed the date code fell off sometime at some point in the past, so unfortunately I can't tell you exactly when the fan is from, but the date code that is on the capacitor is from April of 1980, so this fan likely was made sometime probably September through November, if I were to guess, 1980. The only difference between this fan and the older ones from 1979 is that this fan actually has a gold decorative band on the side of the motor, while these two are silver. Other than that, pretty much identical. Let's see what the tag's hiding out here. There it is. There's the fan's tag there. You'll probably notice that these lower canopies are pretty stark white for being plastic. And that is because these canopies were painted. You'll probably notice here that you see where the paint is rubbed off, and you can see the bare plastic underneath, which of course has yellowed. So that is why these canopies are still stark white. It surprised me at first when I seen these still had white canopies, and I realized that these were painted. So that definitely explains that. So let's go ahead and fire this one up straight to high. This one here still has its original bearings to my knowledge, they do make a little noise. However, they're in fairly decent shape for being 44 years old, being an industrial fan, which are always doomed for a very harsh life. Like I said, the two older ones I had to replace. However, this one, which was the dirtiest of the three, so it was definitely used the most, still has good bearings. So pretty interesting. Slight wobble, one of the blades are bent a little bit. It got hit at some point in the past, so it seems like this one might be going a little slower than the older two. It might be just me, I don't know. And that's it. So thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed the video on these three 56-inch S.M.C industrial ceiling fans, model K56. Stay cool. Take care. Peace.